This is Robert Jacob, and we are meeting the Architecture Review Committee of the City of Prospect on August the 17th, 2026. It is now 1:01. I'm going to call our meeting to order. The order of business today will be first to approve the minutes from our March 9th, 2026 meeting, and then proceed with the main thrust of today's meeting, which is to review the proposals submitted by Asa Harris for the Prospect Strip Center renovations, and go through the sequence of events and what has transpired over about the past 10 days. I would also like, after I give some opening remarks, to turn the meeting over to Herb, who will give some presentations concerning his analysis of the current building and what he may be able to be done with that to try and make it compatible with something that we could live with. And then we'll go on to discuss what they've done and so forth. So the first thing is the approval of the minutes from March 9th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the main business today. And I got a call about 10 days ago from Mayor Farnsley that Harris Development had submitted a rendering for what they wanted to do with the Strip Shopping Center, and that they were going to put the entire project out for bid the following week. Now, this must have been on a Tuesday or a Wednesday when he first contacted me. And they were anxious to go ahead and have the main building and the Strip Center all bid at one time, and so they wanted us to act as quickly as we can. With that in mind, I contacted Mr. Harris, and we had a discussion. I told him that there were things in that rendering that we didn't, or at least I didn't agree with, and so I said we would convene a meeting the following week. We couldn't do that because there's 6 of us with 6 different schedules, and so today was the first day that we could do it. I had a series of exchanges with him, phone exchanges over the next couple of days, and expressing to him that there was many things in the drawing that we had no knowledge, no renderings of. For instance, what were they going to do with the sides of the building? What were they going to do with the back of the building? And as it turns out, they had plans to do nothing to that. They were only going to do a facelift on the front of the building. I then explained that we, as a general rule, or let's say as a concept, disliked that metal fascia that they had at the face of the building, and that we thought that they really needed to modify that. And we had some conversations back and forth, and sometime, I can't remember the day last week, it must have been on Thursday, that he contacted me. We had a conversation earlier that day, and I proposed that they change the fascia of the building, that perhaps they could paint the brick around the building to look like the rest of the shopping center, and that they could do something with the sides of the building. I also acknowledged to him that I understood that it was an old building, there were limits on what they could do, and that in probably 5 years or so, they were going to probably tear the building down and probably do something else there. And with that, I also said that what he said about the back of the building made sense to me. They could landscape it, but that they could either paint it or they could extend some of the design elements of the front of the building to the sides of the building, to which he also agreed. And he indicated that they would be very willing to discuss removal of that fascia and come up with something different. And that he was going to, initially he was going to try and attend the meeting. He was going to fly in. Then he said he couldn't do it, but that he would do it by Zoom. 3 hours later, I got a call from him around 5 o'clock on Thursday stating that he was not going to attend the meeting, that he was withdrawing basically the application for the renovation, and that they were going to put the main building out for bid this week, and that they would come back to us perhaps in late September or thereafter with a proposal based on what they had left in their budget, indicating that it is quite possible that, in my interpretation, that they may do nothing and just leave it if they don't have the budget for it. I am not in memory care yet, but as I recall in our early meetings with them, they gave us some assurances, or implied or overt, that they would make the building look attractive and they would make it look similar to at least some of the design elements to the main buildings that they were putting up. And it seems right now that, and I don't know, I can't predict what they're going to do, but I was left with a great deal of disappointment, and I was a bit perplexed at what their response was. And we've had some discussions amongst all of us, over the phone about what we think we should be willing to accept and come up with at least, hopefully, a unanimous, but at least a consensus opinion about what our minimum, let's say, design proposals should look like. Herb sent me a really good email. He did a nice analysis of the old building and some of the design characteristics that they have in that they could utilize and help make it look a lot like their new building proposal. So I asked him if he could just give us a presentation on what his analysis of what they've got and what perhaps can be done.
Yeah, let me find it. Saw it earlier today, so I don't think it got deleted.
You sent that as an email, didn't you?
Yeah. You find it better, faster than me, it'd be great. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I got it. Okay, in just my little review, I said, I assume the existing buildings remaining will probably stay the same visually. These buildings being the medical building, the PNC Bank, and the Dairy Queen. And, these buildings are much smaller than the present center and the proposed center. They're, basically red brick buildings, and visually didn't relate to the existing center and really don't relate to the new public center either. At this time, we don't know public's position about the existing commercial strip adjacent to US 42. But this strip of buildings does very much visually connect with the new public center. Basically, the end of the building of the proposed center is basically exactly the same location of where the existing, what I'll call the end wall. So the closeness of the strip to the new center is basically going to be the same. So, I mean, they're visually very connected. Well, the existing commercial strip walls are red brick with multiple windows with a large dominant. It's, I guesstimate, around a little less than 8 foot tall metal mansard. I'm gonna call it a mansard wall roof because it works. It works style-wise. It's normally called a mansard roof, but it works as a wall. And this is above the covered walkway. And this mansard wall roof extends almost the entire length of the building, and really is a pretty heavy architectural element. Now the large metal mansard roofs really are, the material is really it's a dated dark bronze, dark green finish, and they're brick vertical columns supporting the covered walkway. And they're placed in a equal pattern, and it's helping to create a human scale to the long strip of buildings. Now, the public's big center, the proposed center, will have likewise a covered walkway, and also with a nice pattern of vertical columns, supporting that walkway. It's interesting that Publix wanted the big center portion to relate to the commercial strip. There presently some common architectural elements of the canopy and the columns. Uh, it's very much relate the existing commercial strip now with the large mansard roof. You know, will not relate to the with the proposed public center. Uh, and as far as what I'm going to call the street side, the US 42 side of the commercial strip, there's an 8 to 10 foot multi-use path constructed that will be constructed, proposed to be constructed along that. So that will affect all the buildings adjacent to US 42. And it doesn't seem like it'd be a good idea for any site development or landscaping on that side until the US 42 improvement project is completed. And actually, the right-of-way probably would change, and the right-of-way property won't be determined until mid-2027. So the right-of-way will be increased for the roundabouts and the multi-use path. So that was just my observation of the things, but not knowing what the actual structure, but that could be readily investigated. It would seem likely if a canopy on the commercial strip was the design of it, if it was modified to somewhat look where it's compatible with the proposed public center or canopy, and then the treatment above it with materials that's going to be used on the public center, that the two would be very compatible. I sure think it's worth that if Publix is interested in this commercial strip to be not remain as the outdated commercial strip. I know there was a rendering, which I had a hard time understanding, which is because the rendering was really not very complete in describing what materials were there. So, but if they really want to be compatible, it can be achieved. And I think that this committee needs to send Publix a letter stating we really would think that would be best interest for them to consider looking into where the canopies are similar. I will admit it would probably mean completely the removal of the present mansard roof walls, but that's a pretty outdated architectural element today, and so but I think it is well worth a consideration, because I think they could make a win-win out of this by looking to develop the commercial strip in that manner.
And would it be more cost effective to do so in conjunction with each other as well? I'm assuming there's optimization of costs and materials if you don't do it in two separate phases, and so would that also be something that would?
Not necessarily. I mean, in concept, it could be, but to bid it as a separate package, not to bid. And what we've been told, it's they're taking it. Anything done there, they're not going to consider until the big center bids are. So, and very easily they could put another bid package, and that same contractor would probably be in a pretty good position by being on site to be successful. So, in a way, Sarah, I think it could be achieved even though it's not bid at the same time. Yeah.
In my discussions with Mr. Ramsey, he said that they wanted to put it all out at one time. And I would assume the reason for that being that they were going to get a better price and a handle on how much the whole thing was going to cost. And then comes back a few days later and says, well, we'll see what we have left in our budget. Well, he could come back and say, we don't have anything left in our budget. So we're left up in the air on what their plans really are.
Excuse me.
Well, I was going to say, when I had some other suggestions, for instance, painting the building to look like the other building, he said, we don't do that. Well, I don't understand that. Found that a bit perplexing. He said, but they might acid wash the brick, which would make the brick look lighter. And as I can't remember, I think it was you, Kathy, said, well, yeah, what's it going to do? Turn it pink?
No,
How?
it doesn't.
I mean, I don't know. So I didn't think that was a good idea. I understood that. I said, we understand you're not going to spend a lot of money on the building because it's probably going to get torn down in 5 years or so. I don't know. I don't know what their long-term plans are. And along with 42, that look on 42, and I agreed with him that there's not a lot you can do with that. He said we can landscape it, and that's fine. They're going to tear down that wooden fence and landscape it and disguise that, which I thought was reasonable, but he had also said they could extend some of those modifications they were going to do in the front to the 2 side walls of the building, on the end caps. And I thought, and he seemed to be agreeable. In fact, it was he who proposed that. So I don't know what their long-term plans are, but I think for us, when we get approached by them again, or we approach them, I agree that I think we should have some kind of minimum requirements that we're going to expect.
Could I show the committee, start maybe some diagrams here? Let me go. Okay. This is the present condition. When I'm talking about the canopy getting size in relation to what is proposed would be something like what the red line. That would mean that portion. Now, I don't really understand. I assume structurally it's not a big deal. I'll make that assumption, but that's definitely not the case. So the present situation is this.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this. So the red line would be where this would start, and then if you look at the thing, this,
You're talking
this
about right
one-
here? This
yeah,
right here.
yeah,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
that little
Mm-hmm.
piece of material would be about like that.
So you're basically aligning with, because you said visually they're going to be in the same
Oh, they're good.
like eye line. I mean, they. So yes, I love. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, because this is just like, it's so heavy to me in proportion to everything.
I would admit, I mean, coming in here and painting a wall could be helpful.
Mhm.
And they talk about, in the sketch talk about it, maybe here in brick, or it was confusing what
Yeah.
they were changing.
Mhm.
Maybe be a lighter color than the red brick. That has effect, but this, the really,
Mhm.
to have some real meaning, it's going to need something like that.
I agree.
What if they change it? This has variable roof heights, which breaks up this long expanse. What do you think that is? 150 feet, 200 feet
Well, the thing about where
in
I
length?
don't see, it's just another thing. You basically are not looking at that strip straight on, like you are on the center. So, I mean, in this strip it's less prominent than the big center side. I don't think it needs to be.
Yeah, makes a good call. Yeah, good.
I don't understand the roof that you were talking about that's kind of outdated. Does this, if you modify this front part, does that affect this roof line?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You're right. The roof is coming through here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's strange. This portion back here is not much of a slope. So I'm envisioning, assuming the structure is coming here. This has been added.
Okay.
Back this
To do this, do they have to modify this?
Yeah.
This right here. You're saying they have to.
Well, when I'm saying all this is going away.
Right.
They're going to cut. So right now it's a block, and
Right.
now they're going to angle it and make it more in line with this, looking like
I
this.
guess this is the section right here I'm thinking about. You were talking about like,
Yeah, that looks like it's a peaked roof.
yeah, that's what.
And then they've got
So-
this, but Herb was saying, this somehow is integrated, that's not just a blank wall behind that, because it'd just be a big valley there from which debris and everything would immediately. So I'm not sure how that's constructed,
Yeah, with this.
where you don't have, it's just a
Well, I think
V-shape.
we asked them to
That would be.
investigate that.
That would be really.
Because
That would be
We
great.
think the best compatibility with their canopy would
Mhm.
relate similar
Yes.
To this with the same material too.
That is
Well,
attractive.
yes.
You know, and proportionally, because this is like, to me, it always looks like so heavy. Like there's this big gray.
I agree.
It's like it is. It's like
Yeah.
Lego blocks.
Mhm.
Just stuff.
And this would be more of a, you know, it would be it'd come across not quite as.
Right.
Yeah, I like that idea.
And I think what we need to do is we need to also just stress bringing the same material elements, right? Like on in. So it's not an assumed, because that's where the expense comes. Yeah. So with the, let's say we write the letter and state, kind of what we'd like to see, and they say, let's just say they don't agree and there is no budget left. Is there any other, other than us stating that this is really what we prefer from a city perspective?
I would say that we would have to express some disappointment that they didn't honor what they said they were going to do. And if I'm wrong, if my recollection is wrong, please
No.
correct me.
No, it's not.
But my recollection is that they assured us that they were going to do something very nice with that, and that we would have input into it.
Absolutely.
We asked them multiple times,
Yes.
what is it going to look like? What's it going to look like?
I think step one is asking. They made many trips here. To talk to the mayor, go through all the authority, to make a trip to investigate. The buildings, many of the buildings are not occupied. It's easy to get in, and to at least take the consideration of investigating something that the Architecture Review Committee thinks would be really a win-win for Publix and Prospect.
Even just to bid it out, just to see what the expense is, because not to pull it from the bid, that means that they have no information of what it would be. They could guess, but why wouldn't you bid it? Just as
Well, they've made lots of trips here, so we're just asking.
yeah, I'm curious.
Or how would you price the changes that we'd like to see?
Well, first of all, you got to do a really detailed drawing and understanding, and that's what we're asking them to do. And then
Again,
once you get the drawing, you can.
Ballpark, how much are we asking?
I wouldn't even. First of all, I think it'd be terrible wrong to put that on record. To actually them to do the consideration and design could be a couple $1,000 for that. After it's done, if they can't get it, and they're professional developers, they could get prices, and we can get prices.
Where I'm coming from, are we asking something reasonable from a cost perspective?
Architecture is going to last a long time. And when you break it down to over 50 years, whatever the cost is, to have a compatible visual design, that is it worth that money? You look at Camelot Center. What is that? Westport Village. They thought it was worth it. Norton Commons thinks it's worth it. Publix has been, what they have proposed is it's not an inexpensive building. They could have tried to do a blob building, but they've tried to create. Grocery stores are great big buildings. I've designed them. I know how big they are. And they've tried to break it up to be more of a to scale, you know. And I think the canopy design, you know, when we first looked at this, is I liked it that they weren't trying to put a great big front. Trying. I don't think grocery stores need to be all that, you know, to compete with institutional buildings. They're so I think their design they proposed was really good, and apparently we all agreed with that.
So the answer to the question is not an unreasonable request. Is that what I heard?
I don't think it's unreasonable I think I would think it's if they really wanted to please Prospect, I think they at least would go through this effort to look into this.
I agree with you. The one thing that we need is, do we find that Mansard Group is unacceptable in their final design? I mean, we need to take a stand on what we want, what we expect. I know we have already said that.
Well,
in the past.
can it be worded that a canopy that relates to the canopy they're proposing?
That would be
With-
the preferred. Yeah, I mean, once again, I think what we were all under the impression, and once again, I asked the question of them directly, so I know the answer by which I received. So what we're asking for, and what we were under the impression, is the design and architectural elements and the material that was going to be used for Publix was going to be applied to that, you know, the strip. And all of us recall the exact same thing. So what we're asking is really nothing more than what we thought we were under the impression of and was confirmed to us originally several times. So I think it's a very reasonable request to say, look, you know, if you pivoted, you know, then we need to really understand, you know, because the discussion probably would have been much different had they said something way back in the day. So now it's kind of, you know, I feel like we need to bring up what we thought they committed to and see if there's any way for them to proactively budget for it, because I've never seen a construction project, or at least in my limited, where you have money left over and they give it back. I mean, I just
Always goes the other direction.
right. It always goes the over. I mean,
You're always
overage
over
20,
budget,
30%. But I've never seen them, you know, say, "Oh my gosh, we're under. Here's your money."
How
I
can
mean,
we spend this?
yeah. Wow. Let's get better lights. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen it in my days. But I think you know, and then you know, I think they can see, you know, kind of, and hopefully consider it at least. And then I don't know where we go from there, because you know, as I said, I'm disappointed in, you know, the pullback 3 hours later. That's what's.
Well, why don't we go
Well, what
next
about,
step after they've responded to our letter? How about not going?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think once again, I don't want to predict negativity, but I want to stay curious as our approach. But I think we ought to say, you know, we were all under the impression, and I believe it had been substantiated, that, you know, we were going to go ahead and tie those on. So that's why we never thought another thing about it. But now it's like we're in a different position, and we'd like to be, you know, curious of, you know, and understand, you know, is there a possibility to go ahead and make those changes to this bill?
and ultimately, I do believe, how expensive is it to paint gray? I don't know. But people do it on their own. I mean, it can't be that expensive. In the scheme.
Yeah.
Seems like the easiest solution.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean,
But-
just to
paint.
make it.
I don't want us to get caught up in painting a wall.
Well, I don't either, but I think
I
we
mean,
need
the
to say
bigger
that-
thing, we really want to have impact. It's got to be compatible. It's
Got to be compatible.
yeah. I mean, we could paint if the dark Mansard wall roof remains. That's what you see.
That's all you see.
What's pushed in what's pushed in, you know, inside, you know, the below the canopy, it's just not that, you know, important. So, I mean, it would be great that the canopy and also all the color schemes does relate, but let's don't muddy it with, in my opinion, let's look for the canopies to relate.
So what? How are we? Who is going to take lead on the proposed letter?
I am not a wordsmith.
What's that?
I am not a wordsmith, I tell you.
I'll draft something and then send it off for input from the rest of the committee.
Perfect. And I
I mean, I think that would be, the best way we can,
Yeah.
just like when you're writing your essay in high school. You have your rough draft.
I remember you telling me you were how before you earned a paycheck from all your education.
Yeah. 33.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll just all weigh in and, edit as needed. And I think, once again, we'll end up with something, I think that states our thoughts and, make sure we remain curious and kind of, but pointed in, what we'd like to see moving forward too. So there's a blend.
Do we know if they've already sent it out to bid?
They said they were going to send it out to multiple construction companies this week.
I wouldn't get, and the element of this being bid second, I don't think it's a big deal. But to answer you, I think immediately.
I'm sure they probably
He
already
said
sent
it
it
would
out.
be
but-
September, and I got the impression it sounded like late September because I couldn't get it down. And I understand it depends on the business committee they review, before he would come back to us with what he felt they had left in the budget. I found that a bit business.
That means they're not gonna have it.
Well, it's an out. Okay.
And also, just another point, I guess, once again, just pulling on the curiosity line. Herbie said architectural elements that last 50 years, but then I heard you say it's maybe a 5-year.
Yeah.
So maybe the change of thought relates to the temporary nature, perhaps, of the building. But once again, we'd like to know that. And once again, that is a
They know
very
something that-
Yeah.
very important step.
I'm the one that said, I get it, that you're going to tear that building down someday because it's old and it doesn't fit. And so I said, we understand it. We understand that, we might have to compromise in some of the things we're going to ask for just because of the limitations of the building. But we certainly have some expectations on what at least the face of the building and that's
Well, and this is why I wanted to. I love you, but when you said that, I thought you were maybe out of your medical practice experience. Because if you look at it, the depth of these are what a lot of shops and things are. And if you think a bigger box, we're getting less retail as we go, and it would really take away from the parking. So I really don't. Who knows what the future, but I don't think we should even ever consider it's going to be, blown away.
Okay, because once again, I don't think they know their future plans either. I mean, my goodness, they could get in and go, oh my gosh, this is so popular, we want to expand and we'll put a floral shop over here, whatever it is. I don't even know. But if they weren't so close in proximity, I think we would have a very different position. But because they are literally right next door to each other visually, I think we'd be doing Prospect an injustice not to continue to, I guess, at least endorse the changes.
Well,
they have that other whole huge strip from the Dairy Queen all the way through to the daycare center. And all of those 3 buildings that are going to remain, I think provide valuable services to the city. I don't know what their plans are there, but they have a huge amount of land that they can develop into some other types of retail businesses if they ever decided they don't want to renew those leases. So I would think that with the amount of property that they have there, that their future, and I'm not a developer, so I don't know, but I would think that down the road, as this city continues to grow and prosper, which I think we will, that they're going to be doing something with those properties too.
Well, one of the pushbacks that they got from the whole development from the community was concern of negative impact to existing small businesses.
Yes.
And majority existing small businesses are down that strip. So you would think that we would want to enhance that. to help those existing small businesses.
and encourage that.
I stopped by yesterday to take another photo because I was to get that roof set, and I saw the nice tailor. This is like 5 o'clock on Sunday. Walking over, and it reminded me when I had my own company of going in late on Sunday. You can see by his walk up, man,
Right.
another day working. So,
Yeah.
so a little, and he's such a, and he's shortened my pants for years
Oh,
because I
is.
keep,
Oh, yeah.
I keep
He's
declining.
He's been there for years. So yes, I think, and also maybe that's somewhere in our creation of this, is once again keeping the community intact and continuing to endorse small business. Also, I mean that's Evergreen Liquors. They were we want to stay. We want the small business. Those type of things. So it's real. All right.
Okay. All right, I'll send out some draft copies of what I think we should send in, and then feel free to edit, and we'll select.
Great.
It's not gonna be a long, detailed letter, but just
Doesn't need to be.
No, I think it'll. I think they already know.
Yeah.
I mean, they've talked to you, so I think I don't think it'll be a
I
shocker.
mean, our consensus is we don't like the mansard roof, and that canopy needs to change.
I
It
think
needs the same design elements that they have. That's basically gonna
It's
be
just how to say it in
well,
another way.
that would be confrontation.
Good.
right.
Good.
And I'm happy to assist in writing because I
That's
actually
your
do. I do wordsmith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I do. I've been,
You do it.
kind of in marketing comms for a little while. So yes, I
All
do
right.
do that. So.
Great.
All right. Well, this has been
All
awesome.
right.
You all.
Can we adjourn?
Motion for adjournment?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, second.
Second.
Favor?
I got to do something weird.
Adjourned.
Back to work.
1:40.